Welcome to the class of Digital Marketing and E-Commerce. I'm Dr. Namita Nath, and today we'll be covering some important topics of Unit 4. We'll be covering about online public relations, reputation management, online reputation management, gamification, and apps. To begin with, let us start with what is online public relations. To understand online public relation more clearly, it's important that we do a quick recap of what public relation is all about. The essence of public relation is controlling what is said about a brand and directing the conversations around it to maintain the brand's public image. With the internet or with the introduction of digital platforms, a number of new challenges and opportunities have emerged, which the traditional PR practitioners need to understand. The traditional PR operates in the world of mainstream top-down media. That means the communication flows from the company to the customers with very less scope of communication almost instantaneously from the customers back to the company. While in the context of web PR, it negotiates the web, which is more of a democratic medium where there is free access of two-way communication, where anyone can create and influence the content. The best way to see where the two types differ is to compare how the PR process works traditionally and online. So basically what I'm going to do now is to make you understand what is the planning and how the execution of the PR campaign is done. And during the process of understanding this PR campaign planning and execution, we are going to find out the difference between traditional PR and web PR. So first step for a PR campaign is conceptualizing the message. That means what should be the information that you are planning to communicate to the market using public relations. So a lot of brainstorming is required before formulating or deciding the message and the manner in which the marketer wants to spread that particular information to the public. This step, in fact, is dependent on the brand and the market to which the brand is catering to, and is essentially identical in the context of both traditional and web PR. The second step of a PR campaign is to create a message. At this stage, the two branches of PR, they start differentiating from each other. The most principles of creating good, compelling, and effective message remains the same for both the traditional as well as online PR. Writing for web PR requires certain special technical approach, especially in the context of incorporating the SEO techniques to the content, which will form the part of the PR message, the scannability of the message on the web platform, and insertion of some other features like the links, insertion of links. But aside from that, some of these cosmetic differences, the core message and the goal that is required to be achieved through the public relation message remains the same. The third step of the PR campaign is deliver the message. Here, the traditional PR and the web PR, they differ completely. Traditional channels for PR include your print publications, events, and broadcast media, while the web channels range from online equivalents of these, how online events or online broadcasting can be done, so which will include news sites, online events, and internet shows like podcasts, to completely unique channels like the social networks, websites, and email. The distribution strategy also differs as far as the distribution of the content to the market is concerned, because the web media requires a much wider ranging and diverse approach to reach an equivalent number of people. The next step for the PR campaign is observing the responses in relation to the message that has been broadcasted using the public relation activity. So this is one step where the web PR is truly far ahead of traditional PR, because the measuring activities and the sentiment online is much easier than doing so in the real world. The next step is responding to the responses that are received from the market. So responding to the public's response to the marketing message, it is very important. Traditional PR, how does this do it? They conduct a survey to collect those responses and then decide another message or piece of information that needs to be again sent across to the market using the same PR technique and the PR mediums, traditional PR mediums. But what happens in the web PR? It is just the opposite. It relies on highly accurate data and involves giving personalized and instant response to the commenters. The next step of planning and executing the PR campaign includes the follow-up. Follow-up is in the context of what next message should be following up the previous PR message. So most PR messages, they don't exist in isolation. They are interlinked with each other. So should be followed up with subsequent messages that have been influenced by the response and the discussion around the first round. This process is much slower in the traditional sphere in comparison to the web sphere. And the last step for planning and executing of the PR campaign includes creation of network. So networking and building relationships with influential people is crucial to any PR practitioner. Traditionally, that means using traditional PR. This is done by approaching the people at events, calling businesses, and arranging meetings, building working relationships with the media channels, and so on. On the web, the networking becomes easier and faster, but there is a negative aspect to it as well. The meaningful connections, building meaningful connections can be more challenging because people are more skeptical of digital communication. Online networking also requires creating and maintaining web profiles, which are time consuming. Some of the objectives for using online public relations. So we have broadly 4 major objectives that are achieved using online PR, and subsequently we have some of the activities which are involved in achieving those objectives. So first objective is attracting visitors through the search, which is using search engine optimization, making your content easily available whenever it is searched online. So some of the PR activities include inbound link building, content creation, creation of blogs, feeds, press releases, online press releases, and influencing media owners. The second objective for the online PR is engagement and dialogue with the market to whom the PR message has been delivered. So the PR activities include surveys and polls, the audience research, the social media interactions, use of or adequate use of the user generated content, again the managing and owning a blog, and being in touch with the influencing media owners. The third objective is building the campaign buzz. That means creating certain excitement before the launch of the campaign or launch of the product. So the EPR activities include propagating the big idea, which is going to in fact create this buzz, the web editorial contacts who are going to support this campaign buzz, the viral agents who are going to share and pass on or make this campaign viral, then seeding the viral, the press releases, and lastly influencing media owners, having contacts or connect with influencing media owners. The fourth and the last objective of online PR is for the defensive and crisis management strategy. The activities which are involved is for protecting the brand, monitoring and responding to the reactions which are available on the web platform, then managing the social media, and again creating better connect with the influencing media owners. Next concept is online reputation management. Before we begin discussing this online reputation management, I would like to mention over here is for managing the crisis or defending the brand, it is very important to manage by interacting with the online users, which is what is in very simple terms online reputation management. So it is a process of monitoring and responding to conversations about the brand and product. Online, these conversations can happen anywhere and between many different kinds of people, and the sentiment won't always be positive. It consists of three major activities. So the first activity or aspect to online reputation management is monitoring. It involves gathering both quantitative data. Data can be like counts, like the number of comments, the number of page views, the number of likes, and monitoring also involves gathering qualitative data, which is uncountable and subjective, like the sentiment which is being reflected in a comment or a post that is made by the online user, or the tone of the question that is being asked by the online user. Conversations can be monitored, include various platforms like social media interactions, comments of the articles posted by the company, and emails. Some of the specialized tools are used to find and evaluate the mentions of the brand, the mentions of the product, mentions of the industry, anywhere on the digital platform. There are two levels to monitoring. Level 1 involves casual monitoring, where the marketer in fact scans the internet to find out the mentions of the brand, company, or any other aspect of the business. The level 2 involves engaged monitoring, where there is a detailed monitoring. The marketer does social media monitoring and scale up the process from just monitoring to maybe even measuring the number of counts that are happening. The second aspect of online reputation management is managing. So managing the online reputation essentially means responding to the comments made by the community and responding not only to the positive comments but also handling the negative comments which are part of this reputation management. And there are chances that some of them are always available for any brand on the social media platform. Since the web is built on the principle of user-generated content, media created about the brand by the community, the company needs to have good response strategy in place to address not only its own channels but also peripheral buzz that is created by the customers and fans. And the third aspect of online reputation management is managing the crisis. So a reputation crisis comes when a negative message about the brand or company goes viral and spreads to the large part of the online community and even beyond that. The key to good crisis management is planning in advance to make sure that the company can roll out its strategy as quickly as possible and minimize the impact. A reputation crisis is a difficult time, but it can have positive spin-off. If a company shows that it takes criticism seriously and makes considerable strides and efforts to fix the issue, the brand may end up being stronger than ever. Another very important aspect during the crisis management is for the company to be always transparent as to how they are dealing with the crisis. The next topic that we'll be discussing as a part of today's presentation is gamification. So to begin with, gamification is the application of structure and mechanics of games, which includes points, rewards, levels, challenges, and trophies to the real world in order to boost the engagement of the users, change their behavior, and solve problems of various kinds. So basically, gamification, it is used by the marketer to drive consumer engagement and subsequently garner consumer loyalty. So under the gamification, how does it help the marketing of any brand or company? So we can see there are different ways, in fact, where gamification is benefiting the marketing. The first one is to build database. When the online users, they play game, they have to log in first, and this helps the company to build the database of potential clients by collecting the email IDs of the player. Second, attracting of the fans, wherein games allow companies to attract fans in social media by also constituting an important element of competition. Education. Games allow education and integration of members of a group or a branch. Recommendation. Games can benefit marketing through the mechanism of recommending the game to some known individuals or publication of results, and also the possibility of comparing the results. Games can provide consumers with a positive, fun-filled and entertaining experience, very important in the context of consumer engagement. Games also serve as a branding tool by creating a positive image of the product or brand in the minds of the participants of the games. Games permit companies to simulate real-life situations that customers identify with easily in such a way that the target groups gets more engaged, and this is how gamification increases the engagement of online users. Games also motivate consumers to take particular actions, which in effect will result in loyalty and attachment to a brand represented by particular institution. And finally, the loyalty, where the players, in fact the game players, they express their loyalty by sharing the information about the games, inviting some other friends to play that particular game, and also informing them about the awards they might have received during the playing of the, or during the process of and getting entertained by playing the game. The consumer motivation for playing online games, as we can see in this diagram, there are certain motivations in the context of three primary motivations for playing the online games. The first one is for the purpose of enjoyment and having a fun-filled experience. The second primary motivation of playing the game is to understand the brand with reference to which the game has been designed, and while in the process of understanding the brand, the trust in the brand is built while playing the online game. And lastly, to enhance the ability to believe the information in an online gaming site which they perceive as trustworthy. So when the consumers in fact play games, or they are motivated to play games, the consumer brand affinity gets increased. Now how does it get increased? The engagement between the brand and the consumer is achieved while playing the online game. How does it help? As the player, uncertainty towards the online experience diminishes, and this is how their trust in the associated brand gets increased. This, how does it lead to believability? The players who trust the brand because of the appropriateness of their experience, they tend to believe the brand more. Believability then leads to the online player getting involved with the brand. The consumer subsequently returns to the game website, and involvement then develops a positive attitude of the player to the brand website, as they perceive that the brand will not engage in any opportunistic behavior. Next, we'll be discussing some of the elements of the game that the the player of the game generally experiences while playing the game. So these are some of the elements of the game. The first one is the context, which includes the rules, regulations, giving structure to the narration of the game, which at the same time also imposes limitations. The content, the things that the users can perceive with their sense while they are playing the game. Then comes community. It includes the set of players who in fact are playing a single game and then they interact with each other. That is what leads to community. Trade. It is the exchange of value which happens while playing the game. So the value can be either by gaining the points or coins while in a game. And finally, the tools and code, which are some of the limitations which are associated with the technology and the engine that is used in the game. The last topic that we'll be discussing today is about apps or application. What is an app? App can be defined as software application typically developed by a product brand to allow a consumer to gain information about the product or a service, thereby forming an opinion or completing a transaction. So marketers in fact use apps for a couple of reasons. The first one is to enhance the reach of their brand to the market. The second is for better positioning of the brands through applications. The third is stimulating the purchase, impulsive buying by increasing the visual appeal of the products which are in the apps. Then increasing or stimulating the consumer engagement through the usage of apps. And finally, leveraging the consumer interactivity and participation on the application. Benefits to consumers include convenience and user friendliness. Finally, some of the different types of apps which are available in the Indian diaspora. The apps included are for social media management. So we have applications for different social media platforms. Your LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, every one of them have the applications. We have applications for financial transactions, which allow consumers to complete some of the financial transactions like paying invoices, request and receive payment for product and services, depositing of checks, tracking of cash sales, and plugging in mobile card readers to swipe cards. The third one is applications are there to facilitate the circulation of news. Before that, some of the examples of apps for financial transactions. We have Bank of Baroda M Connect app, we have SBI Freedom app, we have iMobile app for ICICI Bank, we have Bank of India Star Connect app. These are the different applications for financial transactions. Then we have applications to circulate the news, to facilitate the circulation of news. These such type of apps have been floated by newspapers and news channels to bring the breaking news to the consumers. Examples include the Times of India app, Economic Times mobile app, etc. Then we have apps for social networking. These apps allow users to click pictures, share important moments on social networking sites, and also retouch, capture, and collage pictures. Some of the examples may include your Instagram app. Next, we have apps to order the food online, which are used by consumers to order food from restaurants and food outlets at the nearest location. Some of the examples include Food Panda, your Swiggy, Zomato. Next is apps to improve the workplace productivity. These apps include some of the analytical apps that can be used to measure the performance of different aspects in the organization. We have applications like Google Analytics, which help companies to access analytics to keep up the pace with data-driven projects in real time. Next, we have apps to download books, which represent an amazing way to download as well as read the books. The user can download the latest best-selling books or their favorite classics any time of the day. The most popular app under this category is Kindle. Then we have apps to create content, which enable users to create content and post it online. Like we have apps for enabling blogging. We also have some mobile apps which helps creating of the content and posting it online. Example, mouthshut.com app. And finally, we have apps to circulate the TV shows, where these apps let the consumers watch different Indian television shows across different languages absolutely free. So nowadays, some of them are even paid. With this, we come to the end of today's session. Thank you.